Okay, I just wanted to show you how I'm making my wire and doing my coils for these plasma generators. So I'm just using ordinary household wire. I bought a spool of household wire down at Home Depot, and it seemed to be the cheapest wire down there that I could get. There was 14 gauge. Of course, when you use that wire, you got to get rid of all the plastic. So you just first step is to get rid of the outside plastic. And I've already unrolled this down the hallway there, and I've got I don't know, 60 feet of wire out that I've done, and I've already taken the outside core off that. So now I got the inside wire that's got the plastic on it. So I'm just using a utility knife, pulling it through. And this vise actually acts as a guide for the wire coming along. And then I just keep on pulling. I'll get a sort of a coil of wire in the floor behind me. And then when I go to take the other half of the plastic off there, I'll uncoil it and wrap it up. Occasionally your knife slips and you got to start again. But just a simple matter of holding the knife right and pulling it through. Comes off real easy. There we go. Now the next step is to unravel that way. Now I go a little slower this because I don't want to get it all tangled up, so I'll probably start winding it on the bucket as I go. Now to get this manageable, what I do is I got a 5-gallon plastic pail, and we'll just roll up the ground wire here. There's no light down there, so I just wrap it around the pail. Okay, so I got my copper wire that I rolled upstairs, and this copper wire that I get from Home Depot, the ground wire is actually a copper color, and the wires in the white and black plastic, they look more like brass, but they nanocoat up good, so I'm using them. So what I've got here is a 2x4 stacked in, or clamped in the vise. I put my bucket over the 2x4, and then I come down here to where I'm going to make my coils. So the wire goes through. This is I forget who it was on the video there a week ago, showed us how to do this, but it works great. So I'm using 3/16 rod for my inside coil. Now we're just going to clamp the drill on there. Okay, so we got the wire cut feeding through this board here. That's going to put some tension on the wire. We bent over the edge there a bit, and it's just going to hook into the chuck there. Now we want to get this tight. So on this first one, I'm going for about 160 turns, and I've already figured out I got to have a 10-inch long coil. So we'll just keep on going here till we get our 10 inches. But I've got to unravel a bit here to get some connection on this end, so I go 10 to 3/8 or something. Just give it a little extra. So undo the chuck, and now this coil has got a thread back on itself, so I need some extra wire to go back through. So, 1.5 times or 2 times the length of the coil. And then you can cut it off. And then on this end, I gotta unravel it a bit. It's actually easier if you get that near the wood. And what I'm looking for is 10 inches here. That's it right there. So Now what we got to do is we got to stretch this coil out a bit to get some gap spacing in between. So I just put it back through a hole there, fold that up, go down here, grab this end, and give it a pull. So now I got it evenly spaced, more or less. You'll find that at the ends here it doesn't always actually space, so you're going to have to pull it a bit at the ends. Usually this end is, this one came out pretty good. So there's my inner coil. So for the outer coils we're going to use the 3/8 rod. It's through a 3/8 hole in the wood. And I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so I got my wire through the hole in the board. That 90-degree bend in the wire there does two things. One, it tensions the wire coming onto the, when you coil it here. The other thing is if the wire has got some crooks or bends in that, by bending that around the corner and pulling it around, it gets rid of those little kinks. So I gotta get behind the hole to stick that into. And start up. You want to get the wire right against the board to start, otherwise it rolls on top of itself. Now for the inside coils, I'm looking for 5 inches. A smaller coil, so I'll go about 5 3/8. Give me a little extra on this end to. Now this end I don't need a lot of wire probably, but I like to have extra that I can cut off later, so I leave it long. And then when we go in the bucket, we're going to need that sort of folded back and forth so it's not out of the way. When you fold that back and forth, it makes it easy to pull this off. So I'm unrolling that till I get 5 inches. Still got 5 1/8 there. Actually, that's pretty good right there. So that's my outer coil for the small coils. Now I got to stretch it out to get some spacing in on the coil. And there we go. Piece of cake. Just want to give you a little update on winding my coils. I got some washers screwed on there. Gives me an automatic spacing as I wind my coils. I've got my 2 sizes, the 3/8 and the 3/16. So that got my wire threaded in there. I just wind this around and turn it 9 degrees out to go in the chuck of the drill. I'll slide that through, ready to chuck on the drill. Okay, the drill's in reverse, wire's on the top of the shaft there. It's running behind the washers and then it comes out in front of the washer. It gives me that space. So there I got my 11 inches that I wanted, so we'll take the drill off. And then it's just a matter of sliding that bar out. And the coil comes out from underneath. Okay, here's another way to get your spacing in between your wires all nice and even. I got a piece of 1/2 inch copper pipe here that I flattened out. It's got a little 3/16 half diameter notch in there which is the size of my rod I'm using, and you just stick that in there and hold it tight to the thing while you operate the drill, and you end up with a nice even coil. Okay, my first plasma reactor I built, I just gave the coils a slight stretch, and the outside coil there is 115 millimeters in diameter. Inside the inner coil there's barely room for, well, there wasn't room for a ping pong ball, so I just got a neck off a bottle and glued it in there. So that one's a little bit maybe on the small side, the tight side, and probably is not sure I got all the gants into the inner coil and stuff when I ganced that one. Earlier I showed you that video with the washer here to get my even spacing while I was doing the coils, and with that you get 100. That washer was 1.1 millimeters thick, and I got a coil of 165 millimeters. I think that one's probably too big. It gives you lots of space between the coils and fairly big in the center, so I'm not sure what the ideal is. I tried another one with 0.65 millimeter spacer. This was just a piece of 3/4 inch copper pipe I flattened out. It was 0.65 millimeters thick, and it gave me a coil of 150. And then with a 0.5 millimeter copper spacer gave me a coil of 135 millimeters, which was bigger than the 115 that I made my first reactor out of. So that's the sort of the diameter you get. Depends on the space you put between your wires.